Hello everyone, well if you're watching in the UK you are waking up on Tuesday morning to news of the Breeders' Cup post-position draw, and the party is just about finished here and we've had some bombshells overnight. Aidan O'Brien, mixed messages from the draw, desperate stuff for the 1,000 guineas favourite Precise, who in the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies, stall 13 right on the outside, and in the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf for the boys Gstaad for Aidan O'Brien in 14. Remember Gstaad around second favourite for the 2,000 guineas. So we got the 1,000 guineas favourite on the outside in 13, the 2,000 guineas leading contender Gstaad in stall number 14. It wasn't all bad news for Aidan. The Lion in Winter got a very sexy stall 4. Maybe this is the time, the one time Derby favourite, the Lion in Winter, could come good. He's been knocking at the door recently. He gets stall 4, and Mini Hawk, the arc runner-up, the classic winner, brilliant at Epsom. Mini Hawk gets stall 8 in the Breeders' Cup turf, and surely Aidan O'Brien will be absolutely delighted with that box. True Love in the juvenile turf sprint, stall 9. I think that's okay for True Love. For her, it's just about getting round the bends because she's such a big, buxom beast, True Love. But stall 9 is okay. In the Breeders' Cup sprint, the turf sprint, Cardem in stall 4. Now, Cardem will have headgear back on. He has worn headgear in the past. He didn't wear it when he won last time under Frankie Dettori, but my information is that Frankie said, put the headgear back on him. He will wear headgear this week. And Arizona Blaze for Adrian Murray, well, he goes into stall 3. I think they'll be very pleased with stall 3 for Arizona Blaze and gives David Egan a big chance. The other bad news really was the legend, the international globe-trotting superstar that is Rebels Romance. He gets stall 1 in the turf. I don't think Charlie Apple will be jumping up and down happy with that. He can cope with it. He's been there before. He's probably just going to tuck in, try and come home strongly from a little bit off the pace. Not a deep closer, probably like El Cordobes, who's out wide. But Rebels Romance, I don't think Charlie would have ideally liked stall 1. Kirat, the shot winner of the Sussex Stakes, he'll bring the pace in the mile if he gets out. Remember, so many European horses missed the break, but Kirat is in stall 14. That's interesting for a front runner. If he does get out, he will cut across the field, and sometimes on a tight bended track, think velodrome, it can be an advantage for a front runner to come from the outside, but he's got to hit the boxes quickly, Kirat, from stall 14. Again, it wouldn't have been the box that Rafe Beckett would have chosen ideally. And finally, Cinderella's Dream gets stall 9 in the filly mare turf. I would have thought Charlie Appleby will be very happy with stall 9 for the horse who finished second in the filly mare turf last year. So mixed messages from the stalls, but Gstaad and Precise, Aidan O'Brien will be thinking, I know I've got all these Group 1s up, but you're kind of doing everything you can to stop me equaling my record of 28 in a year. Can they overcome it? Well, I certainly think Precise can. I think Gstaad has a really good chance of doing so, but it won't be easy. This game, always setting challenges. So if Bill Mott can win a third Breeders' Cup Classic, it'll be 30 years after his first. You could almost say he's winning one every 10 years. But in Sovereignty, Bill, is it the first time that in your heart of hearts you've had a real classic horse that was almost the image of the mighty Cigar, just had everything you wanted?
Well, he's certainly the best 3-year-old I've ever had. You know, it's hard to dispute how good Cigar was, but because he was really a great horse. And this horse emulates him in certain ways, although he's done it, you know, at a different age. Cigar really didn't get good until the end of his 4-year-old year. But this horse has done everything we've asked him to do. He's won the races we've wanted to win, and you know, it's he's just a very, very good horse.
Cigar was such a monster. I mean, back home, Sir Henry Cecil had Frankel. You know all about Frankel. he had loads of other brilliant horses, but Frankel was the one. With you so far, Cigar has been the one, but I feel with Sovereignty that he is close to a match. Like, you've almost had 2 ones.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think you're correct in saying that. You know, of course, we were lucky enough to have Cigar over 2.5 seasons, and he strung a lot of wins back to back, and he had actually for that level of horse, he had a long career. Sovereignty's had a good year. I don't know what's going to happen with him next year, but certainly this year has been a real win.
Is your problem for your opponents that Sovereignty has the stamina of Sierra Leone, but kind of the pace of Fierceness, although he's not going to do a Fierceness? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, Sierra Leone has that sort of lobbing about and finishing off.
I always said about Cigar, I said he's got enough speed to stay within, close range of the speed horses, and he closes better than anything that's coming from behind him. I mean, it was just, it was very simple. He'd be in a stalking position. This horse has been similar. I mean, he's had a good closing kick to him.
Obviously, it's interesting talking to the trainers of their horses, but sometimes talking to other trainers about other trainers' horses can give you something. And I chatted to Chad Brown this morning, obviously the trainer of Sierra Leone, and he said when your horse, who's barn right next to his, walks round, he said in his opinion it looked like Sovereignty hadn't had a race all season. Yeah. He just looks so fresh. And for me, for you, that has to be the ultimate accolade.
Right, exactly. And he said the same thing to me when we walked back into the barn together. He said he looks like he hasn't lost a pound, throughout the campaign, and he's actually looks like he's probably picked up, and which is always a good sign.
I don't know what kind of trainer you are from the point of view of confidence, but everyone's calling this the Breeders' Classic of all Breeders' Classics. But I also feel that everyone still expects Sovereignty just to go and win it. In your heart, do you kind of think if he brings his A game, he will just go and win it?
I think if he brings his A game, he's going to make a big race out of it. You know what I mean? I'm not overconfident. I always respect the other horses, and I've been doing this long enough. I know that there's only one way to win and 100 ways to get beat. But if he runs his race, he'll make it a great race.
And I want to ask you just one final question, but away from your horses. We've got 2 juvenile, really good horses. Precise for Aidan O'Brien, who's favourite for next year's 1,000 guineas, a Fillies Classic back home, and Gstaad, who's second favourite for the 2,000 guineas, the Colts Classic. They've been drawn 13 and 14 in their juvenile races. If you had those 2 horses drawn 13 and 14 in juvenile turf races, how worried would you be?
Yeah, I think that is worrisome. I think you're at a disadvantage to be parked out there. I don't think there's any doubt. Our courses are very tight, short runs to the turn, and that doesn't mean it can't work out. You can have a good trip from a bad post, but you'd probably, I'm sure anyone would probably feel better to be, down a little closer to the inside, so you're not going to get parked out on the first turn.
You know what everyone tells me here, Bill? They always say, historically, Bill Motley doesn't really love doing interviews. He doesn't really enjoy the TV side of it, but you've been an absolute gentleman, so thank you very much. Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Good luck. Well, Todd Pletcher's won on just about everything, but I wonder how he's going to bring down Sovereignty in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Todd, it's quite an ask. Fierceness drawn in stall 1. What do you make of that? What do you do? You just got to bomb out, have you?
Yeah, we weren't looking for the 1, especially in the Pacific Classic when he kind of ducked in after the start. But he's historically been a good gate horse and hopefully established a good position. We got John Velasquez up to make those type of decisions. So horse is in good form, and like you said, it's a very competitive race. But he's one of the reasons why it's competitive.
We know what your owner thinks. But what do you think about contrary thinking in stall number 4, who effectively is a Fierceness spoiler?
Yeah, I mean, he's adversely affected us in the last 2 races. He kind of buzzed Fierceness and interfered with him a little bit on the far turn, Johnny said, and then obviously, it was a real mess in the jockey club. So I have no issue with the pace setter as long as he runs straight.
I don't know how obviously back home I kind of know which trainers like which trainers, but I don't know how buddy you are with like Chad Brown, but do you say to Chad, like, mate, like, it's not ideal you're doing this, or does it not work like that?
No. You know, we did talk after the jockey club, and he told, you know, he said, you know, we had no intentions of doing anything like that. You know, it was just trying to set a pace, and you know, and I totally understand that. If you have a horse that's a closer, you want to ensure an honest pace, and I have no issue with that, as long as he doesn't cause any interference like he did in the last race.
Talking to Bill Mott about sovereignty and just saying to him that the problem everyone else kind of has with sovereignty is, whereas with Sierra Leone, you knew he was going to be like a giraffe out the back and come through fast, sovereignty kind of has pace and stamina, and that makes it tough to beat.
Yeah, he looks like a horse that can put himself in a good position and closes strongly, so you know, that's what makes him such a good horse. But again, you know, some other horses in there as well that can't overlook. It's a deep field.
Yeah, I mean, if you were summing up how good this classic is, how would you describe it?
Well, you have the first three finishers from last year, first three finishers from the Derby this year. You know, it's just
as good as you've seen. I mean, I'm not talking about just the winner, but the deepness of the field.
I think depth-wise, you can make that argument. And obviously, they're showing the video earlier, Ferdinand and Ali Sheba. You know, those are some historic races, but I'm not sure that even those had the depth that this race has.
Is Ted Noffey a bit special?
He's been very special so far. He's been very straightforward, very, you know, just taking everything in stride. I love the way he shipped in here like an old pro, you know, that just takes everything in stride.
And what's the best of the rest of Pletcher, would you say? Because you've got 2 or 3 in there with sort of 6, 7 to 1 chances back home. Ted Noffey's a very short price favourite. What's the best of the rest?
Well, we like, you know, we like the group as a whole, and Tommy Jo, she seemed like she wasn't quite at her best in the Alcibiades. I think if she bounces back to her best like she did in the Spinaway, she'd be very competitive. And Time to Dream had a bit of a rough trip at Keeneland. Like everyone in that field, you know, you need to work out a trip, but I think if she does, she's capable.
So exciting to see how you try and bring down sovereignty. Wish you all the best. Good luck.
Thank you.